Hello, and welcome to a special live interview on Unsafe Space. My name is Keri Smith, and I'm here tonight with our friend Mike Harlow, who is our returning champion and still, I think, our most frequent guest. If you're not familiar with Mike, hey!
What do you mean you think?
Yeah, how many times is this now?
Eight. No one is coming for my record.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I lost track. So
I haven't been on in so long. I've missed you.
I miss you too. You were very busy in the fall.
Mm.
Yeah. So for anyone who's not familiar, because we may have some new viewers since you were last on, Mike is a writer, a speaker. He's also a shit starter. Or has
not intentionally.
Not intentionally. No, you kind of get into these things by virtue of the stuff that you talk about and not conforming. A non-conformist. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
But welcome back.
Thank you. I missed you. It's been way too long. Tell Carter. Where the hell is Carter? Tell Carter I'm very upset with him that he didn't come to see me.
We are trying out like a special live thing sometimes where Carter or I don't have to be here. And tonight's the first time we're doing that with Beverly doing tech. So give it up for Beverly in the chat. Actually, we did this once before, but I had to do tech, and I seriously had to make a list of things like hit this button, hit that button, so I wouldn't forget how to run the show. But welcome. So you are currently, when I say shit starter, you tend to get yourself into these situations where I think you are being targeted, and we've talked about this before, but you're being targeted for censorship, and anybody who's not familiar with you may not know, but you're one of the people who have been unjustly permabanned from Twitter. You were unjustly permabanned from Twitter before it was cool.
Yeah, before anyone gave a shit.
Before anyone cared, and we can go through that a little bit about what happened with you there.
Yeah.
But tell us right now, are you currently, because you keep getting hit with temporary bans on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I'm banned from Facebook for a month now for calling myself a hooker, which I'm not, by the way. I should just let that be known.
That's the ban, is because you posted a picture of yourself.
The caption said "Portrait of a tired hooker,"
and I saw this picture, and there was nothing.
Which again, I'm not. I just like to dress like one. I feel like my style is sort of like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman before the classy makeover. So I just got to reiterate, I'm not actually a hooker.
But if you were a hooker, I don't think they would ban you.
No, sex work is real work. What happened to that?
Right. And the picture, there wasn't anything scandalous about the photo.
I'm just naturally scandalous. I got banned from Tinder.
No.
I literally got banned from Tinder because I had a picture of myself. So I was invited to the Republican convention because I was in this video that they played. So I had a picture of myself at the White House from July or something, permanently banned from Tinder.
See, that's so
funny.
Which
is probably a blessing in disguise, but
when you texted me and said you were banned from Tinder, I said, is it because you're in a relationship now?
Well, I'm not anymore.
Right, but at the time, I was like, are they just banning people who are now coupled?
No, there was literally nothing else on my thing.
That's crazy.
Somebody said to me though, I'm like, I wish I would have thought of this. Somebody had on their told me they had on their Tinder, swipe the way you vote.
Oh, that's funny. That's really
See,
funny.
you're not a degenerate like the rest of us. You don't get it because you don't use Tinder because you're.
I don't know which way is which.
Coupled up.
Is left.
Right is the good one, of course.
Oh, okay, got it. So tell us about on Facebook. How many of these temporary bans have you received, and what is the nature of the bannings? Because some of the posts are very old, from what I understand.
Well, I think it basically started. I think after that whole bullshit on January 6th, they sort of reached a new level of censorship, and I'm going through people's stuff. So sort of maybe a week after that. And by the way, they banned all of Walkaway. They banned the entire group. They basically just took them off of everything. So around that time was when they started just digging through every single old post that I'd ever made going years back, even a comment or two that I'd left people, someone I was friends with maybe 8-9 years ago. And there were even things too, if maybe 7-8 years ago or something, when I was mugged and I got banned just for talking about that. So I guess according to Facebook's rules, anyone who's the victim of a crime isn't allowed to talk about it now.
Wow. I mean, somebody, this is why I say I think you're being targeted by a specific employee, maybe at some of these companies, or maybe just users who want to get you banned, but because they're digging through, like some of those posts, like you said, are 8 or 9 years old. Somebody's going through your post history and trying to find something that they can say is inappropriate.
I think it's about building a case to have a reason to take you out, because they don't want the publicity of just saying we don't like this person's politics. So they try to build a case, and it just goes on and on. It's just every single day. And the thing is, show me one liberal who faces this sort of daily harassment really from social media.
Yeah.
There just aren't any. I've said it because, I have those couple of leftists who just sort of hate follow me, and they're always complaining, oh, you did this, you deserved it. I'm like, cool, well, why don't you guys post the exact thing that I did and see if you get banned?
Yeah. Do you have an idea about, or a guess about, why it is that you're being targeted?
No. I wonder that all the time, like, who the hell am I? But no, I mean, I've been banned from Twitter, Facebook, Tinder, everything.
See,
so
because
I kind of always wonder why it is me.
I have a guess, and I may have told you this offline, but
they don't like my dick jokes.
No, they don't like your Pretty Woman fashion from before she switches. No, I think that
rude.
I think that there people notice something in you, that you have this potential in you to build an audience. And you know how they did this first round of unpersonings after the 2016 election, and they went through and they unpersoned, completely banned from numerous platforms all at the same time. So they took down Milo, they took down Gavin McInnes, Laura Loomer, Alex Jones, anyone that could be looked at objectively as being influential in terms of culture and in terms of swaying people, or in the election. And I think after they did that, they had to unperson these people because they were so successful at building an audience. And, some of these people had audiences in the millions. I think they look at you and they say, you're one of the people.
I have an audience in the tens.
Yeah, but see, you have the potential, I think. There's your ideas are good, but also you have natural charisma, and you have this authenticity that I think that if they were smart, which I think obviously a lot of the people who work at these companies, even if they're for censorship and they're for things that I don't think are smart ideas, it doesn't say anything about their IQ. They're high IQ people, some of them. And I think if they're some of them, and I think they look at you and they're like, okay, this is someone I should cut off at the knees now.
I guess so. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know. I feel like if I have potential, first of all, potential usually means like that you're not living up to it, which is probably true in my case. But I don't know. There are people who have lived up to it. So I don't know. But the thing is, you're right, because, if I look back at every person who was super influential to me during 2016, they're all gone now. So, and it seems like that's sort of what happened immediately after the election this year, is that they're trying to just unperson every single one of us who was, reaching through to people during the election. And they're going to have a harder time with some of us, with people like Brandon, people like me. Like, we're not going to just go away quietly.
Yeah. So,
and I should say I am back on Twitter, or Not Mike Harlow is back on Twitter. So follow Not Mike Harlow.
Yeah, there's a new person on Twitter, kids, and his name is Not Mike Harlow.
The photoshopped version of me.
Right. So speaking of Brandon, I know some of the people watching follow you and follow Walkaway. And tell us what happened to your friend Brandon, because I don't know if people are up on all the news. Like you said, was it right after the election, they banned Walkaway from Facebook?
Mm-hmm. And half a million people group just gone.
Did they ban them from Twitter also?
I'm not sure.
The official account.
Well, there wasn't. Well, it wasn't. The thing is, it was a Facebook group, so it was more central to Facebook. There wasn't really as big of like an official Walkaway community on Twitter.
Right. So Brandon, last we heard or talked about anyway on our show was, I think we talked about, Brandon is being charged with the January 6th events, which they're calling an insurrection. What's going on with him, and how can people find out how to
He's doing
support him
really
today?
well. We've been talking a lot. He's doing really well. I would love to go off about how ridiculous I think it is and how unjust it is, but I really can't talk about what happened during it. All I can say is that he's doing really well. He's really strong. He's hanging in there, and he will, he's going to be cleared of this craziness. I'm trying to make sure that I don't say anything that gets me in trouble
fine.
with my big mouth, but he's doing really well. He's hanging in there. He's very strong, and I think and I hope that it'll all be cleared up in the near future.
Cool.
Maddie.
Oh, Maddie, we have a super chat from Maddie. Says,
I love him so much. He is like my movie TV show twin. We like all the same dorky shit.
Do you want to read his chat?
Sorry, I don't have my glasses. I'm getting old. I got a 7-day ban on Facebook for calling a Ben Shapiro bot account a bitch. Well, she probably was a bitch.
That speaks to the arbitrary is not the right word. The way that, it is, they arbitrarily enforce the rules. So something like that is, I would say, if you look at it objectively, it is against the TOS to say that. But they only enforce it against certain accounts. They only enforce, because their TOS is always evolving. So they're always evolving to make it broader about what you can and can't say, but then they apply it selectively. They're not going to apply that to a person on the left who's calling you that.
No, and the thing is, people on the left all the time do break actual terms of service that should be in place when it comes to like stalking or impersonation or violent threats. Nothing happens. Yeah. Antifa is all over everywhere. I'm interested to ask you what you think, though, because one thing that really bothers me is I feel like maybe we wouldn't be in this position if it hadn't taken Republicans and even if you don't want to call them the right, the non-left, to get on board with the fact that something has to be done about this issue. And I feel like it has taken them years and years and years to get to a point of taking any action, because for so long they were just repeating the same talking point of the left of, oh, they're a private company, they can do whatever they want. And so it's a little bit frustrating that, like, remember when Republicans had the presidency, the House, and the Senate and did nothing about their own voters having their voices systematically crushed? So I don't know. Do you, for me, like, maybe, both of us aren't conservatives. We always say that. So maybe this is like where it shows, but I don't know about you. I absolutely think we need laws for it.
It's funny. We might actually disagree on this because
really,
Carter's had quite an influence on me. And
see, Carter, you bitch, I'm very upset with you.
He makes a good case for opposing government regulation of speech, and however, and I think he makes a very good case for that, of having the government involved in what you can and can't say, even if the intent is an admirable one where they want to protect free speech on these private platforms. Even if that's the goal, once you get government involved in it, there is, then you're setting up a scenario where down the road, you've already given them the reins to a certain degree. So they could decide, this is the speech we're protecting, this is speech we're not. And now you have the government enforcing it as well. So I don't know. I don't know what I think about government regulation. I do know that I believe they should have to abide by Section 230, which already exists, and they don't abide by that. And for anyone not familiar, I mean, they're not acting as platforms when they censor based on viewpoint. They're acting as publishers because they're editorializing. It's like, you can have these opinions, but not these opinions. And so they're violating Section 230. And I also think there's a case to be made for fraud, because as we've talked about a lot, I mean, they advertise when you signed up for Twitter, if you had known that after spending all the time and effort of building a following, that they could just yank you off because of your point of view when they marketed themselves as a free speech platform at the beginning. It's a bait and switch because that's not what they are.
And even if you break no terms of service, they still, if they want to get you off of there, they will come up with a reason.
So we finally got, our Unsafe Space Twitter account was perma-banned on January 11th. We finally got this past week a communication from them. It's taken this 2 months to get a communication.
What did they say?
From them. They said we were banned for trying to evade a ban, which
that's what they said to me. That was my first one. I'm telling you, that is their like in-company code of we want you gone, but we don't have a reason to.
It doesn't make any sense because we were never banned.
Nope,
so it's
neither was I.
How are we trying to evade a ban? It's not like you banned us and we came back again and we were kind of joking. Is following the TOS technically trying to evade a ban by following the rules? You're trying to evade a ban. You're not saying anything we can ban you for.
Mark my words, the next one they'll tell you is that you had multiple accounts, even though you didn't. That was the next one they told me.
That's what they said to you.
Yeah. I fought them and I actually beat them and got my permanent ban for Twitter undone twice. And then they permanently banned me a third time. And that one I just had no luck with. So or not me, started another one. But you guys should do that too. I honestly... That's what's funny is that this whole time I haven't made another one because I, oddly enough, wanted to follow their rules. At a certain point, screw it. So you guys should just make another one.
Because you're trying to actually follow the rules and not try to evade the ban. It's one. I like talking about this because we do have some new subscribers and new viewers, and I know we have some on the left. And I know we have some people who are, I would describe as more classically liberal, but who have maybe been bought into some of the propaganda that comes from legacy media and have bought in part anyway, to this idea that there's no cancel culture and there's no censorship and there's no problem. And so I think it helps for people to hear from just average users who've received these permanent bans for no reason. It's like, no, it is happening. And what if it happened to your friend? Like, what if it happened to you? I don't think they ever think that far.
Well, and especially when we've all just been locked down inside for the last year of our lives, to then have them remove our voices online, it sort of already is in an indirect way the government getting involved in speech. That's what I think is that, I don't know, when people talk about private companies, I feel like we are living under such corporatism that at this point, there really is no distinguishing the government from these big corporations. I mean, they work in tandem.
They do work in tandem. And there's a lot of cross-employment where you will see like a large part of Clinton's staff, went to work at Google. Or you will see like the head of such and such at Facebook is now working for Biden. Like they go back and forth.
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah, there's a lot of cross-pollination.
I think it's just been frustrating for me to see the past year how it feels like there really is just no opposition to these people. Like it's just taken so long for the opposition to do anything meaningful. They did nothing. They said nothing when all the people you mentioned were banned. Milo, Alex Jones, all of them, and we were told, oh, it's just Alex Jones, it's just Milo. And then we've watched as that line has moved to the center to the point where they're more powerful than the actual president of the United States.
Yeah, that I think is a watershed moment because
well, it should have been, but
nothing
was done again.
Yeah, it's like there are people there are people
there
are people who continue to mishear what you're saying when you point out that the most powerful people or the most powerful institutions in this country, they're more powerful than the president of the United States. And it doesn't matter who that president is. It could be any president. If Biden isn't saying what they want, they could also take him off of Twitter. The point is that we have a system now where I think people put so much faith in government and so much faith in politics to the exclusion of seeing like who really holds the power culturally and institutionally in this country,
Yeah. It's, what it sort of reminds me of? Has anybody else ever watched Survivor? Like, do you guys remember the first season of Survivor? And this is my analogy.
Okay.
So like the first season of Survivor, nobody knew what the hell it was. There were 4 people who were in an alliance together and were voting together. And it was in a group of like 12, 13 people. So all the other people had to do was just vote together and they could beat them. But they kept sitting around watching after person get voted off. Do they have an alliance? Are they voting together? Gee, if one more person gets voted off, we'll know. And the next person gets voted off. If another person goes, we'll know they're working together. Next person gets voted off. If it happens again, we'll know that they're voting together. That is literally what the right is doing with person after person after person, down to the damn president getting banned. If one more person gets banned, we'll know there's something we got to do here. And
There's
it's
something
like, you
fishy.
moron. Yeah.
It's something fishy.
Somebody was just telling me about how in Nevada, did you see this? And I think that's the state where they had the real nut job Democratic Socialists, the one who were remember that video?
No, which one?
Like, do not use gendered language.
Oh yeah.
So they just took over the whole Democratic Party in Nevada. They were the leadership now. And so somebody was telling me, great, in Nevada, all the Republican Party has to do is just sit around and watch for a few years. And I was like, yeah. However, never underestimate the ability of the Republican Party to just totally fuck everything up and snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
So you are probably more in the political world than I am. And are you more aware of things that are happening in the Republican Party? And I know as part of Walk Away, like you went to some events that were political in nature. And how do you
Not
define...
that event.
Oh, not that event. No.
No. I was at home in New York. Thank God.
But you went to, like, the picture that was on Tinder. Wasn't that at the Republican National Convention?
Yeah.
So do you align yourself with a political party now? Are you, because I know you used to be Democrat, are you still independent? Are you Republican? How do you see yourself?
I'm like an independent Republican. The Republican Party is bullshit. It is the second worst party. They are so awful, but we're stuck with them. So I think, it already, even having another major party that isn't the Democrats, it already feels like we're in a one-party state. It already feels like there's no opposition. So the only thing, what we have to do is just rally behind Republicans and make them suck as little as possible, which is very much an uphill battle, but they're just so horrible. They're so horrible. They're useless. And I've been saying this for so long, is that the Republican Party in New York, where I live, is a metaphor for the Republican Party nationally. They do nothing. They do useless. They're useless. They just do nothing. Like, they bitch so much about AOC, but I mean, I remember when she was first running, because I live right by her. Her district starts a block away from me. Before anyone knew who she was, I would see her all the time, knocking on doors, handing out flyers. She's insane, but I feel like I can't really criticize her when at least she's doing that. At least she's putting in the work and trying to win elections. I wish that my party would do a tenth of that, but they do nothing. And the thing is, I feel like, especially the past year, New York is in the toilet. I feel like it's never going to come back. I just want to get the hell out of here. But this would have been such an opportunity for the Republican Party in New York to red pill people and change minds and open their eyes to what's going on around them, people whose businesses have been destroyed. But they don't do that. They just do nothing. And and they always just go, oh, well, we won't win in New York. Nothing we can do. When, just in my lifetime, we've had Republican mayors, governors, senators, congressmen. But, that was before they just gave up
even in this,
the whole city.
Right. Even in this election, which I'm one of those people who I don't trust the results. I've said that. It's just
no.
It's just a gut feeling, and I don't. But I also don't care enough to dig into it and see it, because to me, it's just a lot of politics is theater, and I think distracts us from a more important war, which is a culture war. But I don't trust the results. However, even if you look at these results, Trump did better in New York than he did in 2016. So it seems like there's
with no help from the party.
So it seems like you're saying there's this untapped demographic of unsatisfied people that no one is talking to.
Well, because think about it, like you and I used to be hardcore liberal Democrats,
Mhm.
and we changed because we brought ourselves to that place. We did the research. I feel like it should be their job to lead the horses to water, uh, but they don't do that.
Yeah. So
So it's
what's
been
the
so frustrating, and I think there's like, I don't know. I really see a lot of shit happening where I feel like, of course, I agree with you. I don't trust the results at all. I think that the election integrity and censorship should be the main two things Republicans are focusing on. However, I'm also worried that they're not going to focus on the other things. Like I feel like even given all that, we can still look at what we did wrong. And people get upset with me for saying this, but I'm sorry. Trump ran a terrible, 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 terrible campaign. There's
what
so
do
many
you think?
things that could have been done differently. I just feel like there was no message, there was no strategy, there was nothing. That first debate, God, because I think in 2016, whether you loved Trump or you hated Trump, any person in this country could have been woken up in the middle of the night and recited 6 or 7 points of his platform.
Mhm.
What did he run on this time?
Yeah. Yeah,
Not being Joe
I felt
Biden?
like, yeah, that first debate was not a win for either, but
No.
I think he definitely missed a couple of easy questions there.
I think the problem with him, and I love him, I wish to God that he would have won, but I think the biggest flaw with him and the biggest problem is that he is just surrounded by the worst people. He gets the worst advice. Whoever the hell was advising him in this election ought to be, I don't want to get thrown off YouTube. It ought to
Yeah,
be, you know what?
I think he
Throw a
got,
toaster in the tub.
this is just my gut again, but based on the little I know about Steve Bannon and his intellect and also his the way he has a strategic mind. I think he did well the first time because of people like Steve Bannon, but
And
also
Kellyanne Conway,
yeah, and also
people get credit.
the people culturally, like we talked about, who were unpersoned the second go around.
Yeah.
You know. So speaking of
Well, that's
culture,
another thing
but
too is, oh, I'm sorry, I was just, that's another thing too is that over the past like 5 years or so, there's been this groundswell of cultural figures changing so many minds. People like you, people like so many of my friends. And there was no support from the party. There was no being helped or nothing. So they could have done so much more. It's frustrating.
oh, let me read this quickly because we got another super chat from OMG Puppies. Thank you. OMG Puppies is a great name. It says Democratic
Glad
Party
mine is being
goal.
quiet.
Yeah, mine too. It says Democratic Party goal, one party rule by any means. Republican Party goal, if we can get the House, we'll lower taxes by 2%.
Thank you. Thank you. God, I never want to hear, not that don't matter, whatever. I never want to hear the word tax cuts again.
Yeah. Can you, I want to talk a little bit about the culture war.
And they were,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, sorry, listen, I was just going to say, and they are running on the same damn shit that they've been running on since I was a kid. Like when it comes to socialism, they're like the boy that cried wolf because they've been screaming about it for so many years. And I feel like it's not even really accurate. I feel like, uh, it's almost worse what we're going to have if that's possible, where it's this sort of meld of corporate oligarchy and radical leftism in culture.
Yes.
And the culture is how they bring about and manipulate people to get this communistic sort of corporate oligarchy.
Do you think that they kind of, like sometimes I believe that you can manifest things by what you focus on. Sort of, this has been part of my fear that I don't talk about this fear a lot, but sometimes I've grappled with a fear of not wanting to talk about my old ideology because then I'm like giving it power in a way, or um and more often than not, I err on the side of no, this is becoming a real problem. Like 2 years
Yeah.
ago, we were like canaries in a coal mine. There were a lot of canaries in the coal mine who are like, this is going to leave the universities. This is going to become mainstream. And it did. It became mainstream this past June. But do you think there's something to the Republicans? Because I remember being a young person hearing them talking about like the left is just for socialism. And so, do you think in a way they've kind of pushed this by focusing on that? Like that it's manifested because of the, this is maybe a weird question, but sometimes I think about things in that way of like, is calling the left a bunch of socialists who want communism sort of pushing the path that we're going on, or not?
I think they're really out of touch. Mm-hmm. And I think so many of them too don't want to talk about corporate greed and don't want to talk about corporatism. So it's easier to just keep saying socialism.
Yeah.
Because so how many Republicans are bought and owned?
Yeah, I think so. Where I'm at now, when it comes to thinking about politics, is I think so much of both parties are the same. I mean, I just think it's like the political elite, and it's very rare that you get someone who is who's going to go against the grain. It's very rare that you get someone like a Lincoln, for example, who my boyfriend is reading this biography of Lincoln right now and was talking about it this morning, and just how at the time his positions were so against the grain. You know, he was on the floor of Congress calling out the president, which was unheard of at the time. He was opposing slavery. He was vocally taking the unpopular opinion. And I don't see that in a lot of politicians today. I think so much of what they do is based on money and power and perception and yeah, I mean, power being the ultimate one. I don't think there's a lot of people going into politics because they're like genuinely want to serve. I think they want to rule.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that they are very similar in so many ways, but I do still feel like one is considerably worse.
Right.
But like, look, for example, about how Texas and whatever the other state was, they opened up now and people are praising them and so happy. It's been a year. Like, yeah, I'm glad they opened, but it's been a year.
Thank you. That's
like, I don't think they deserve that much credit after a year allowing. And that's another thing too, is look how freaking quickly it happened that people like us were saying, you know, just a few years ago, in span of a couple of years, it has gone from us fighting against like, oh, political correctness and comedians not being able to perform at colleges to now the government telling you when you can leave your house, where you can go, cover your face, you can't work, you can't have your business. And unfortunately, a lot of people like us, many of us saw the direct line that can be drawn from one to the other.
Yeah, because it's an absolute faith in and trust in the government as almost as God. Like thank you for saying that, because a lot of people were asking me, you know, aren't you so happy? Aren't you so excited that Texas is open now? I'm like, I mean, yeah, I'm happy, but we never should have been locked down. It was a year, and they lied to us, which, you know, after a certain amount of time, I would have expected people, especially in Texas, to rise up. I would have expected there to be more business owners like the salon owner who said, I'm not complying, even if it means I go to jail, you know?
Yeah.
And we rolled over I don't mean we as in individually, you or me or anyone watching. I just mean as a people, as a nation, we rolled over. And now, now we're in this place where we're like supposed to applaud and be happy that we're given back. They're giving us back our rights that they took away. Like, oh, thank you for giving me back my rights. Thank you. Like,
I know. I almost wonder I wonder what you think about this. I almost wonder if, I don't know. I think when it comes to COVID and all that, I understand that politically Trump was just in an impossible situation, especially at the beginning of it. But I almost wonder what would have happened if he came out more strongly against the lockups, because I feel like he wouldn't really take a stand with any of it. And the thing is with Trump, he's so genuine that like he has no poker face. I'm kind of the same way, that like it's always written on his face how he feels. So whenever he would be asked about masks or whatever, he'd be like, yeah, I have no problem with that, you know?
You know,
I wonder what would have happened if he would have just come out and said how he really feels when it's written all over his face, because I've always felt like Trump is at his absolute worst when he tries to be political.
if he had just said, if he doesn't believe in them. See, here's what I think would
But there's
happen.
a lot of data and evidence and science to back that up.
Well, I've read the mask efficacy studies. Most of the people who push mask mandates have not read them. And they want to talk about how effective they are. I'm like, you haven't actually read any of the studies, have you?
You know what's really interesting? Oh, I'm sorry.
But let me just answer to that question. What would happen? Imagine this world. This is what, if Trump had come out and been an authoritarian dictator kind of president like they said he was, and if he had said, we're going to have national lockdowns and we're going to have a national mask mandate and you can't go to work, and it's the federal government, it's me, Trump, telling you that we're doing these lockdowns everywhere. You know what the left would have done? They would have pivoted and done the opposite, and they would have rightly called him an authoritarian who was trying to destroy people's lives and destroy people's businesses. And they would have been the ones opposed. And then in the news, they would have, because they always have to make it tribal, right? They have to make it, well, the right's over here, the left's over here. They would have said, well, Trump's taking that position. Okay, we're on this other side. And they would have been opposing the lockdowns.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm so sick of it. Somebody had commented on one of my things recently, something that I hadn't thought of it like this, but these masks, I just have such a deep visceral reaction against that. I'm allergic to them, I swear. And other than the symbol that they stand for, the communism that they represent, I've sort of wondered why I have such a visceral reaction to them. And this woman commented on, I think it was my Instagram, and she said, I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and these masks remind me of when my husband would beat me up and put his hand over my mouth. And that just sort of, I had never thought of that like, for a lot of people, that really is what it feels like, having a hand over your mouth and being silenced and feeling repressed, and they're never going to go away. Yeah,
there's a ritualistic function to the masks as well. This is something I've heard my preacher talk about and we're not supposed to criticize or even ask questions about, like, what is the mask doing to all of us psychologically and being forced to wear it? And especially what is it doing to little kids? And, I did a interview with the trigonometry guys, and
I love them. I'm so jealous.
I love them too.
You go on the coolest shows. I'm so jealous.
I really like those guys. I think they're really funny and sincere, and I think their show is only going to grow in popularity now. I mean, they've got like a winning. Anyway, their purpose is in the right place. I really like that show. But so I was on their show, and I was I was talking about my old ideology. That's what I was being interviewed about. But at the end, they have a question they ask everyone about, like, okay, they spring it on you at the end, like, what's something we should be talking about that nobody's talking about? And so I answered honestly, I think we should be talking about, and we're not allowed to talk about, what is the adverse impact of forcing masks on people for a year plus, and especially what's the impact on children. And that was the most controversial thing. If you look at the response to that video, of course, there were people upset at criticizing social justice ideology, but the most controversial thing I said was the mask thing. Some people got really up in arms about it. They don't want you to even ask the question of what.
No, and I don't understand. There's so many things that make no sense that I don't understand. First of all, I don't understand how they're okay with this going on forever. It's like, at what point is enough for you people? Another year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, forever? And it would be fine with them. I don't understand. And I also don't understand. I mean, it is virtually impossible for children to get COVID. Not impossible, but very, very rare. So why do they have to wear masks?
I think that they would be, well, to answer your question about how long will they let it go on, it is ritualistic. And if you think about it like a religious garment, because they're showing you what they believe by wearing it.
Yep.
This is what I believe. I'm a good person. I put this on because I'm of the right belief system, and you are not. If you don't wear this, you're not a good person. And so what it would take is for the high priests of their faith to say, now you can take it off. Yep. If the Texas governor, because they're all these in Austin, where a bunch of the wokies live, they are pissed.
The wokies.
Yeah, but they're pissed. And a lot of the woke small businesses, and larger businesses, larger chains are now posting these virtue signaling things on Instagram and everything saying, we're going to continue to require the mask. And it's like, okay, that's your choice. Again, you can do whatever you want with your business, but you're saying this in this sort of religious way of if the governor had not been Abbott, if it had been a Democratic governor who said it's time to take it off, or if Joe Biden said it's time to take it off, you guys would be posting the exact opposite kind of pictures. You would be like, yay, COVID's over, da da da.
Yeah.
Like it's like a religion. They have to have the high priest tell them it's okay.
And people who are against this really need to start getting a lot bolder. I think talk about free market solutions. Let's do it. I think we really need to all consciously make the effort to start phasing these friggin' masks out of our lives. And it has to be free market solutions. There should be a cost for businesses and for people that want to enforce this on people. If like, for example, me, there are 2 grocery stores near me. One of them, the woman screamed in my face and stalked me around the store because I didn't have a mask on for 2 seconds. I won't shop there anymore. The other grocery store, they don't care if I don't wear a mask. So I feel like we all just go with it because we don't want to be hassled. And that's why we lose. That is why we lose, because the left has no problem with putting themselves in uncomfortable situations. And we all need to be willing to do that more. Like, nobody wants to make a fuss, and now look at what we're dealing with. So if millions of people were to make a stink about masks, and there would be a cost where people would lose money for acting like COVID Karens and demanding masks from people, it would make progress with getting rid of them, but no one wants to do that. And I mean, think about also all of the people especially women in the Middle East who were beaten and attacked and gave their lives for bodily autonomy to make the choice for themselves of what garments they will or will not cover their face with. Yeah. I think you can get into a little bit of an argument, stand up to the cashier at the grocery store.
Yeah. I think that
that's the thing. If you think about what other people have had to do to maintain their freedoms, and we're not willing to do anything.
And it doesn't mean causing a huge scene or in fact, I think it's not helpful to get angry and lose your cool, but it is helpful to make them think and to make them uncomfortable, even if it makes you uncomfortable. And so, this concept of culture jamming, I think that.
No, I haven't heard that.
Well, some people have been forcing these uncomfortable moments where people have to, whether they're conscious of it or not, think about the mask and what it means by wearing over the top masks, like those plague doctor masks, like the bird. Or, I have one that's like a hood that looks like I'm going to an execution. My whole head is covered, not just my mouth. And that makes people really uncomfortable. But the other thing is you can, with a smile, like, okay, I want to hear about what it's like in New York, because I'll tell you what it's like in Texas. In Austin, it's probably a lot like New York, but up north where I'm at, like just half an hour north, it depends on the business. Some are woker than others. But for the most part, I don't wear it. And when people ask me at the big box stores, when I go in, they were like, would you like a mask? I just smile and say, oh, no, thank you. I don't wear them. And I just keep going. And they never stop. They've never stopped me all year at the big stores.
Good.
But
it's like how we used to have smoking and non-smoking sections. Let's at least enforce like no mask stores or no mask sections.
Yeah, no mask section. So
I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off.
Oh no, that's fine. I want to ask you about New York, but let me tell you this one idea I had, and you can tell me what you think of it, because this gets to your point about bodily autonomy. A lot of the people who are falling in with this authoritarian, you must wear a mask everywhere, and it's my right to tell you what to do with your body. A lot of those people are also pro-choice.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Which is amazing, because they don't believe they have a right to tell you what to do with your body if what you're doing is ending a life that's inside of you. They don't have a problem with that. You can end that life. You can kill that fetus, that baby in the womb, and that's okay, because they don't think they have a right to tell you not to. Yet they think they have a right to tell you you have to wear a mask because you might have a sickness they don't know about, and you might get them sick because they chose to be outside in the same place you're at. They chose to be there. So what I was thinking of doing is, what if we start doing petitions outside of businesses that require masks, and just have when people come up, we like leftists do petitions all the time. What if we had someone standing outside of a place, and when people come up, you just ask them like, hey, are you guys pro-choice? And if they say yes, you're like, oh, great. Do you have a minute? So we're just doing a petition against the mask mandate here. Like,
I love it.
just assume that they're intellectually consistent. Which they're probably not.
And they would say, oh, if you don't wear a mask, it's totally different, because if you don't wear a mask, you're putting another life at risk. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, when you have an abortion, the definition of abortion is you are terminating a life. But they're okay.
And it's not just standing up to people who work at businesses or whatever. It's just as much standing up to these COVID Karens around you, which I get all the time on the subway, by the way. And that's what's funny too. I don't know about you, but at least in New York, I always see these leftists on social media talking about, oh, these horrible people who won't wear masks, and people won't wear masks. It's literally just us. Like, I go out on the train, on the sidewalk, in stores. I am constantly the only person not wearing one.
So
sorry.
Let me read this real quick, and then I want to talk to you about New York. Maddie H, thank you, Maddie, says, Australia has been hell with lockdowns. Queensland was shut down over one case. Victoria is a complete police state. The police are arresting people, literally going into people's homes for organizing protests. Jesus. Yeah. See, that's where we're at, and people can't see that it's a police state, because I saw a great meme the other day, Mikey. Oh gosh. Lisa J creates on Instagram. She shares a lot of great memes, but she had one, and it was a guy reading a book about the Holocaust, and he was going, how could humans ever let things get this bad? And while he was reading it, he had a face shield on and a mask and like a little vaccine ID on his shirt. And it's like, how could you ever let it get this bad? Meanwhile, you're putting on all the rituals, and you're going along with everything. Anyway, so tell me about what it's like in New York, because I imagine, and I've heard from you and other people, it's really different there than Texas.
It's miserable. It's like, I mean, it's a ghost town. Everyone works. But that's another thing, is that mask compliance nationally is like at like 80-90%. So it's crazy. And that's the thing. If this is really so divided, and the right are people who are generally against masks, it shouldn't be at 80-90%. These things should be more contentious. And that's what I mean when I say they have no opposition. It's horrible to everyone. I mean, if you walk down the sidewalk without a mask on, you can't take 2 steps before you have someone screaming in your face. Outside on the subway too, like, is particularly crazy, because I don't know, I get really bad motion sickness in like cars and stuff like that. So like, I'm not wearing it on the train. I won't, I'm not doing it. And so there's always, and everyone has masks on, which is funny too, because the subway, I got on the subway the other day from Times Square, and it's like it always is, people standing like this, you know, and then they're yelling at me. I mean, they're packed in, but oh, you can't, you know, have dinner with your grandparents. It's insane. None of this makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. So I'm sitting on the train the other day though, and this girl is sitting in front of me and is just like staring me down. I could hear her thoughts. I could see she's like thinking of what to say. And she was like, excuse me, you need to have a mask on. That's really not okay. So I just like looked up. I was like, no, thank you. Looked down, and she was like, the rules of the MTA say that you need to have a mask on. So I looked up. I was like, oh, do you work for the MTA? She goes, no. So I was like, then shut up. She did. And she did. And that is how you deal with a COVID Karen. But people just don't want to make a fuss, don't want to rock the boat. And, you know, like I've done that myself a lot of times. I mean, we have lives, we have places to go. We don't want to be fighting with people 24/7.
Yeah, so, I've for the most part, like, I would put it on for certain places. Like, we all make that decision on what you're willing to push back on. And, you know, I would put it on to go into my favorite coffee shop just because I wanted to go get coffee there. But now that in Texas we're open and they can choose their policy, this coffee shop is now choosing to continue their mask mandate. So I will not be going there anymore. And I went in and I did ask the two girls behind the counter because they said I needed a mask. And I was like, oh, but we're open now. And they're like, well, it's a private company. And I was like, yeah, but aren't you guys liberals? Like, aren't you pro-choice? I'm pro-choice. Like, I'm a liberal. Like, don't you believe in bodily autonomy? Like, so I made a point of going there and saying something, and I'm gonna write the owner and just let him know, because that's the other thing is you have to let the businesses know, and you don't have to be over the top or angry. You can just let them know, I won't be coming back to your establishment because you don't respect a person's right to choose whether they wear the mask or not. So, you know, you used to be my favorite coffee shop, but unfortunately, like, I'm going to support someone who's not authoritarian, and they cater. All they hear from are the COVID Karens. Because people like us are not writing them. We're like, oh, it's a lost cause. They've made their decision. Well, if they hear from enough,
and that's why the left wins.
If they hear from enough of us, they may change their opinion. And I will say this too. This is pretty cool. In my little town, the biggest contingent of people pushing back against masks, against the mask mandates, and against just the psychology, like, of what the masks are doing to kids, are progressives. It's a lot of people on the left who are like the hippie, granola, crunchy kind of people that go to natural grocers. The natural grocers here, nobody wears a mask. It's all like true progressives.
Wow. Here, those are the ones that'll jump down your throat.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, you know, over the summer and fall, I was touring with Walkaway, giving speeches. I was in, I think, like 21 cities or something like that. I probably was on 40 to 50 planes in crowds of up to 500,000 people, hugging everyone. And for a while, I thought it must have been luck that I didn't get COVID. I feel very differently now. I feel like maybe I'm the one who's doing something right, because every person I know who has gotten it are people who obsessively wear masks, stay away from people, stay inside. In New York, for example, they shut down dining and stuff, but less than 1% of cases were contracted from things like indoor dining, whereas most of them are from in your home.
Well, we are.
So maybe I'm doing something right by being around people. And the thing is too, when this first started, I swear to God, people can go look back on my posts and see. When this shit started, I was as fearful of this shit as anyone else. I did everything we were told to do. I stayed inside. I didn't see my parents for 2-3 months.
I remember.
When I did, it was through a door. Yeah. That ended for me the day that we were told Black Lives Matter can gather by the hundreds of thousands in close quarters and riot and assemble, but you can't work. You can't. You have to stay inside. That was the day I realized, oh, we're being lied to.
Yeah. When they had remember they did on the news, they were like, medical experts say that it's in the public health interest for Black Lives Matter protests to happen.
And the thing is, you can draw a direct line from children being medically transitioning genders to that, because, you know, a lot of people like us have been talking about for years the corruption of ideology in medicine, and now we see where that has gotten.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse. Now they're talking about vaccine passports. It is going to get a lot worse.
So what do you see happening with New York? Because, you know, I saw this really heartbreaking post by Libby Emmons. You know her, the journalist.
I love her.
And she was talking about how New York is a city where people do a lot of their living outside because the apartments are so small, and so much of your public life, your socializing life, doesn't happen at home in like a big house where you have friends over all the time. A lot of your socializing life happens outside at theaters, at restaurants, at, you know, shows, and you know, you live a lot of your life outside of your apartment. And just the impact on people's depression that this has had by staying inside and isolated. I think it's probably very different in New York than in other places. Like, where do you see, I know a lot of people are moving out of New York. Like, what's happening?
Are they? I feel like that's a bit of a myth. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they are, but, you know, because I'm, my apartment is falling apart, so I'm apartment hunting right now. I'm trying to move. And all I've heard is about how people are leaving New York and rents are so cheap. They're as expensive as they've ever been. So I don't know how true that is. but yeah, it's horrible. There's, a couple months ago during the winter, I was dating someone, and it was very difficult to have nowhere to go, nothing to do. I mean, you can like what? Go for a walk, stay inside, watch a movie. There's literally nothing else to do. You can't go anywhere. And they had indoor dining shut too, so it's like 10 degrees outside, and the only thing you can do is either order food or go sit outside at a restaurant in the freezing cold. So
I saw a picture of you, and you were in. Now this made me laugh almost, because you were having dinner at a restaurant in an outdoor shelter that was constructed so that you would technically be eating outside, but they just like built a structure so you're sort of inside.
Outdoor, indoor dining. It's crazy. They're all over like little glass houses and stuff. Perfect metaphor. But I really, and like, it just goes back to what I said before, is that most people, regardless of Democrat, Republican, left, right, most people in New York hate de Blasio. And now most people are seeing the truth about Cuomo. So it just drives me crazy that where is the Republican Party in New York capitalizing on this?
Yeah. Taxtera, thank you, Taxtera. She says, I think that masks spread COVID because people keep touching their faces. When I don't wear a mask, I don't touch my face.
Yep. I'll tell you this. I went on a park date with a liberal a couple months ago. And oh God, he was like arguing with me, but then he wanted to have hate sex with me, I think, which didn't end up happening. But I think some of these people he was like, I want you to wear a MAGA hat during. I'm like, I'm telling you, I think some of these guys have like a complex. I'm whispering because it just has to stay between us. Our secret. I think some of these guys have like a complex, like some of these liberal guys, like they want you to wear a Trump hat and bang them. Like, but I had a point with that, I swear.
No, this happens with women too. I know a lot of SJW feminist women who secretly are attracted to conservative men and will share that with you privately and sort of view it as a thing that they wish they could get rid of. Like trying to change who they're attracted to.
This guy, though, he was arguing with me about masks and how you have to wear masks. And then when he's leaving, he like called an Uber. We're standing on a corner. We're just arguing about masks like 30 seconds ago. I watched him drop his mask on the ground, the wind blow it away into the dirt by the trees that dogs piss on. He went and grabbed it, picked it up, and put it back on his face. I'm the unhealthy one.
One way you can culture jam is to show how unhealthy it might be to wear these dirty masks around that because people don't put on new ones, they wear the same ones. You can take your mask off. Here's a suggestion: take your mask off if you have to sneeze into it, and then put like, no, but I've totally seen people do stuff like that.
You know what's interesting too, is like, that's the thing too, like, I don't know, if I'm ever in a store or something, if it would at least just be nice about it, I'd be like, fine, whatever, maybe. But they're so nasty and they're so militant. I had this thing a little while ago in a grocery store. This woman was like chasing me around and starts screaming at me. She's like, "You're diseased. You're diseased. You could be sick. Or you could have gotten me sick. You're diseased." And, not to be all like identity politics, but just the image of having this woman screaming at a gay man, "You're diseased," it just sort of shows how like the way that you treat people who don't even have COVID is just so differently than the way you would be able to treat any other illness. I mean, can you imagine someone screaming at an AIDS patient, "You're diseased," or a cancer patient? Or it's crazy.
It's like the kind of person who in the past you would see standing on a street corner screaming about demons and about how you're diseased and now they're just like everywhere. And it's part of mainstream culture. Is you're in a grocery store and and you're like, wow, like 20 years ago, I wouldn't see you except you being on the street corner screaming about disease with a sign maybe and ringing a bell.
What's funny too is that so yeah, I've been back on Twitter for less than a week now, and I think it was a mistake, I swear, because there's so many of these things that you would just never know about if you weren't on Twitter. All of these little bickering arguments and shit that people have. And I just feel like our side focuses on the dumbest shit. Like, we are now 2 or 3 weeks into people every minute of the day talking about Dr. Seuss. Not that I don't agree with them, not that that's not important. However, another thing on Twitter everyone is arguing about is, can LGBT people be Republicans? They're very concerned with that. And it's like,
wait a minute.
It's so ridiculous.
When you told me this was happening, I didn't believe it at first. I was like, why are people, that's not even a question. Why is anyone treating that with any legitimacy? Like, that's so dumb.
Well, I think part of it is sort of like, not to say that there aren't people who hold those views, but it is such a minority of a minority. I mean, I toured the entire country for 4 or 5 months, speaking to crowds of conservatives and Republicans. I did not get so much as one dirty look. Like, that view is such a minority of a minority. And I think it sort of is always amplified by people reacting to it. Twitter, people going back and forth, and it sort of almost gives it more legitimacy.
Yeah, that's like, why would you even deign to respond?
And the thing is too, like, to go back to what I was originally going to say, is that if you look at what's happening right now, I mean, the Constitution being ripped to shreds, the First Amendment being just chipped away at, our rights being destroyed, entire industries that will never come back, cities ruined. And what do people want to talk about? Dr. Seuss, Britney Spears, can gay people be Republicans? I'm like, oh, this is why the left wins.
Yeah. On the other hand, I separate out the Dr. Seuss thing from the question of whether gay people can be Republicans, which is just silly to me. But
it's true. But
the Dr. Seuss thing. So let me ask you this: when we first started Unsafe Space, social justice ideology wasn't mainstream yet. It was growing, and we could see how it was going to leave the colleges and become mainstream. But that didn't happen until June of last year. And now it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And every day it's like, okay, now there's they're targeting Dr. Seuss. They're targeting Grease, the movie Grease. They're targeting Dolly Parton. They're targeting, it's just hit after hit after hit. And I think that a lot of people who are opposed to this belief system are probably in danger of becoming just burnt out talking about it and pointing it out. And on the one hand, I think it's important to continue to point it out because there's so many people who haven't woken up yet. And there's so many people on the left who are more like classical liberals who just haven't been able to see it yet, who are waking up every day. I'm still meeting them, people who are just now waking up. And so it's important to talk about it. But on the other hand, it's tiring. It's exhausting. So how do you strike like this work-life balance or even
miserable?
How do you not even say work-life balance? Because it doesn't have to be your work. But I know a lot of people they have jobs that don't relate to criticizing social justice ideology, but they spend some free time doing that. And they spend some free time watching shows that criticize it, and they talk about it with their friends, and a lot of them are feeling burnt out. So how do you balance your life?
Same. I'm feeling, oh God, if you know, please tell me, because I'm exhausted. Just what you were saying with that, I totally agree with you on Dr. Seuss thing, obviously. The only thing is, I don't know, it's just, there's something that still bothers me about it for some reason, because I think maybe it's just a level of proportionality that, I feel like it's been like 2-3 weeks now that every minute of every day, Dr. Seuss, Dr. Seuss, Dr. Seuss. And I'm on their side with it. I'm 100% agree. However, I just wish that they would get that upset about the things that really, really deeply matter. Not that that doesn't matter, but on a scale of 1 to 10, what is Dr. Seuss? Whereas you have communism rising. You have people being demanded that we cover our faces like this in Saudi Arabia. You have industries destroyed, the government locking people inside. So I just sort of wish that they would get as upset about that as they do these little things,
Do you
but no, in terms of being burnt out, this is miserable. I think it's true with both of us that we never sought this out. We never at least me, I think it's the same with you though, that this sort of just happened. I never sought this out, and like it's
No,
just
I
I
did
don't know. I
seek
think
out doing a show about my old ideology. Like I have my goal is to help people who are in it. One of my goals is to help people who are in it see it for what it is and see how it's different from liberalism, because I think one of the ways it wins is that it convinces people like me that it is liberalism and it's progressivism, and it's not. And so doing this show is a blessing, because I the best kind of messages I can get are from people who have left the social justice left, or who have discarded some of the tenets of belief from the social justice left. And I love that. I just sometimes it's like, okay, we have to have the same conversation again about why, pointing out the same thing over and over. And also, even if you're not doing a show, even if you're doing it in real life, I guess, like I have a friend who a lot of her posts are she's like, it's watching the level of dystopia rise, like we're in now, because now it's mainstream. It's been mainstream for almost a year now.
Yep.
And, these are friends who are experiencing it. They know what it is. They're awake to it. And they're experiencing it in their kids' school. They're experiencing it in their workplace. They're experiencing it from their kid's pediatrician, who's asking their toddler, what gender do you identify as? And deciding, well, do I need to get a new doctor? And so I've had friends who are like, it's a fight or flight thing that I experience every time I have to confront this. Would it be better just to withdraw from society and go do like a Henry David Thoreau and live in the woods and just enjoy the rest of my life? Or should I continue trying to talk to people in my life? What would you say to those people? Because I think it's worth it to continue trying to talk, but I do think you need to take breaks from it so it doesn't consume your every waking moment.
You're better than anyone I know. I think if anyone I know does it, you're like the most well-adjusted. Like I don't know how you do it. I really don't. I'm the opposite. I'm like, I don't know. I think especially, I don't know. It's really hard.
I'm just laughing because I don't feel that way a lot of the time.
No, you are like, no, it's true. I don't know. I think especially since the election, I've just felt hopeless, because if and regardless of what you think about it, regardless, they're about half the electorate has more than half the electorate, because actually, if you think about it, the two candidates of the last decade who caused the most enthusiasm in people were Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. And supporters of both of them now have valid reasons to feel like they watched both of their candidates get crushed by the establishment. Funny how Bernie's supporters got over that real quick, but
some of them didn't.
Tens of millions of people.
A lot of the people I know who are waking up now are Bernie voters.
Finally, welcome to the party. But no, what I'm saying though is that like at least half the electorate has valid reason to think that our elections are very questionable. So if you can't vote this ideology out, then what? I don't know. So that's sort of what I've been struggling with, and I don't know. It's been really hard. It's sort of like I've sort of felt like I can't pretend anymore that I feel like what I do matters or means anything, because I don't know. It just feels like I spent a year of my life doing that, and for what? So I don't know. That's why I've been trying to get out of that mentality, and I'm trying to like get back into it and relaunch my YouTube channel, but it's really been a struggle.
I think, and you and I haven't talked about the Gina Carano stuff yet, so bear with me on this. Let me see if I can put this into a question. Are you optimistic at all about what happened to Gina Carano with Disney? Because I am.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, so first of all, okay, I watched that Daily Wire movie the other night. Have you seen it?
Which one? No. What?
So they had their first movie come out.
Okay.
Run, Hide, Fight, or something. So okay. I watched it the other night. Yeah, I support what they're doing. I want them. I want them to take on the system or whatever. However, honestly, do I think it's going to be like Ben Shapiro that changes the culture of entertainment? No, but some of us will try in other ways, I guess. But no, I mean, I don't know. It just feels like they're so powerful. Like okay, you're fine. I don't know if I should talk about this.
What?
But okay, I'm gonna try to like be vague without breaking the stupid contract I signed. So, God, how do I? So for the past year, I've been under contract that I was supposed to be on a TV show. I couldn't take any long-term job. Don't say what.
It's the Golden Girls, the reboot. Okay.
Yeah, totally. Couldn't take any long-term jobs because there have been like 4 or 5 different starts and stops. It was supposed to be a year ago, then COVID happened. They specifically brought me on because they knew it would be controversial. I just got Gina Carano'd from that, and from what I've heard, they canned every right-leaning person from the cast, not just me.
Wow.
And they just make up reasons. They insinuated that I had something to do with the January 6th stuff, or that I was there. I was at home. So,
wow, Mikey, I didn't know that. That sucks. I am sorry.
Well, I think it's a good thing. I think it's that because I was already iffy about this. I just don't like having my time wasted for a year, that I couldn't take any long-term jobs to do the show. But regardless, it just feels like no matter what you do, there will be something. So I don't know. I think my point of this, I guess, is that I think people need to, I don't know. I feel like if these corporations don't give you anything, there's nothing that they can take away from you. So don't try to feel like it'll be different this time. It'll be different with it won't be. So I feel like people really need to make their own stuff and own their own stuff.
Yeah. I think here's why I feel optimistic about what happened to Gina Carano, because they tried to make an example of her, of here's what we'll do to you, if you don't fall in line, and we will unperson you, or we'll fire you from your high profile job, and we'll make an example of you to scare other people from saying what they think. And instead of following the path most traveled, or the easiest path, which is to bow down and make an apology and fall in line, she came out fighting. Like immediately she came out fighting. She didn't take a break from social media. She came back and she did a deal with the Daily Wire. Now, I haven't seen that movie, and I'm sure it probably, they're at the beginning. I don't expect them to compete with any of the major studios out of the gate, but I like the fact that someone's trying to fill the gap.
Yeah.
Somebody with the money and the audience and the power is trying to fill the gap. And I think they're accepting pitches now for shows. And I know you have one of the funniest scripts I've read in a long time.
Thank you.
I'm not saying but maybe Daily Wire is a place to go. But
I've been working on building my own film production company. We've been working on it forever and are trying to get started this summer with shooting stuff and just starting small. I think it's easy when you're sort of trying to start a business or build something to get ahead of yourself. I feel like you sort of got to do the low budget version first. So that's what we're trying to do. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like for me, my opinion, I think the thing that could be most effective at changing culture is something that's not necessarily conservative, but is just anti-left.
Oh, I agree. I don't think it needs to be necessarily conservative. And actually, I hope they don't just greenlight things that have a conservative or a preachy conservative bent. I hope they're smart enough to see the gap that they need to fill is just to provide a space where for entertainment, where content creators, where creative people put entertaining people above ideology. Like, I just want to see that again. I just want to see stuff that has nothing, that's not trying to preach to me. Like, I just want you to make me laugh. I rewatched Coming to America the other night because I want to get ready to watch the new one.
Oh, I heard the new one is very woke.
No.
I heard there's a bunch of Me Too preachiness in it, and I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But
well, the old one is great. And, I just want to get back to seeing comedies like that where they're not trying to preach to me. They're just trying to make me laugh, and they're just lighthearted and doing a good job of it,
Uh-huh.
Let's see.
Is that Henry?
Henry.
I think that's Henry. I know him.
Oh, this is interesting. Henry may not know this, but I used to represent. He says, "Hey guys, check out Margaret Cho's new interview on Young
He's in my
Turks
neighborhood.
on Jess Rothschild's podcast. Has she always been an SJW? I used to love her. Comedy is dying."
Me
Okay,
too.
I used to represent her. I was her manager for almost 10 years. It was a long time. And maybe you didn't know. My answer on that is probably more personal than just being someone on the outside looking in. Yes, she's always leaned SJW, but I think how can I phrase this? There are people who are true believers in social justice, and there are people who, like with anything, will voice what's popular in order to get shows, or because it's popular, or to get invited to the right cocktail parties, as Carter says, or because it's what's in vogue. And
which is she?
She's not a true believer.
Really?
I actually prefer the true believers because they're sincere in their beliefs, and I think they're well intentioned. And I think the true believers. It's funny because Carter and I we disagree on this a little bit, but I think the true believers are the people that you can reach because. And I think you can get the other people you can reach them too if you change the culture. If you change what's popular, they will follow whatever's popular. But the people who hold the sincere beliefs, a lot of them have very good intent, and they're following this ideology because they believe that it's the best way to be in the world. And if you can show them that it's not the best way to be in the world, like, they will change. And so anyway,
this is what I mean. You're so much more well-adjusted and optimistic than I am.
I don't know.
Me, I'm at the point where I'm like, go screw yourself.
Oh, trust me. I have my one of my biggest struggles is like maintaining empathy for people who believe what I used to believe. I pray about that all the time.
If at this point you can't see what the hell is going on, this whole election, I was asking people who are voting for Biden on the left, how the hell is it that you can claim to be against these things and then vote for a person who was behind every war, who was an architect of mass incarceration, an architect of the war on drugs, an architect of all of these horrible things happening to the middle class in the recession, protecting the big banks? I never got an answer. So to me, at least if they nominated someone like Bernie Sanders or whoever, that would be ideologically consistent. But how you can claim to be for these things and then vote for Biden, as long as I live, I will never understand that.
Yeah.
Also, Henry, we need to hang out again. Call me.
That's so funny. Thank you, Henry. Little Ragamuffin says, just drop by to say I love you both for your guts and perseverance and fighting for truth and freedom in all caps. Little Ragamuffin I call her the William Wallace of the SOAS community.
I love that.
Freedom.
Can you go back to Maddie's? Because I didn't see what it said. I'm blind.
Maddie,
I think he had one or two.
I don't think I can put that up again, but I can read it. Maddie says that LGBT debate earlier today was nuts. Who the heck was that dollar store version of Laura Ingraham? I was scared for Blair. I don't know what he's talking about.
Blair needs a big drink after that. I haven't seen it, but I should watch that.
Wait, is this the debate about whether or not gay people can be Republicans? That's so dumb. I mean, the gay people are Republicans.
With no gay people on the actual panel.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I think that's all of
you all know our thoughts.
all of the super chats.
I saw before, though, Maddie had said about Cuomo and stuff, and I thank you. I could not freaking agree more. That it's, I'm sorry, like, unpopular opinion here, but like, I don't give a damn if he like tried to kiss some broad 20 years ago. Like, that's terrible, great, whatever. He sent COVID patients to nursing homes, and people like us we knew this 6 months ago, a year ago, we were trying to tell you, and now people suddenly care. So I don't know. I feel like is this what he said? Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
he said it better than I am. But
sorry, yeah, Beverly's helping us out. She put it on there. She said, "I'm so."
I love
Maddie
Beverly.
said, "I'm so pissed that it looks like Cuomo is going to be defeated by some hashtag Me Too nonsense, and not the fact that he killed over 12,000 people in old folks' homes." Yeah.
And I almost feel like that's intentional, that it came out at the exact same time. I mean, this is what people are focusing on. I mean, of course it shows that they're hypocrites also, but I mean, again, it's exactly what I was saying about Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is the sexual harassment, and everything else is the putting COVID patients in nursing homes. You know what I mean?
That you're right, actually. Yeah. Nobody is it's a big distraction. Maybe that's why the press is now reporting on the Me Too stuff about him. Because I was wondering what changed.
That's
Why
what
are
I
they
think.
reporting on it? Because it's less destructive to the narrative they're selling to
Yep.
nail him on Me Too stuff than it is to nail him on the COVID nursing home stuff.
It's so frustrating too that, like, I'm sorry not to sound douchey or self-aggrandizing, but it's like we just keep being proven right about shit. Like, we knew all this was going on a friggin' year ago, and again, welcome to the party.
Yeah. One of the things I've seen, the press actually has there was a Newsweek article about this, and I was kind of surprised. The press is, in some cases, not overwhelmingly so, but they are talking about the fact now that if you look at a state like Florida versus a state like California, which was lockdown happy, you can't really argue that the lockdowns and the mask mandates did anything to change the rate of COVID infection or death. And so I'm surprised they're even touching that because it would seem to me that they would just like not talk about it. But I would encourage anybody who supports the lockdowns and supports mask mandates, like look at Florida, look at their numbers, and then compare it to California, and then look at the businesses that have gone under in California, and look at the friends there who have moved out of there because they can't work.
And that's what I don't understand too, is that these people who've had their lives ruined by this shit vote for it. Yeah. Like in New York, if you look at like even something like Broadway, all of those Broadway people are the biggest Democrats in the world for Biden. And so you're out of work because of them. That is how deeply programmed people are.
I mean, even
I'm sorry, but like objectively, I really truly always try to see both sides of something, but objectively, I truly do not see one reason to vote for Biden over Trump. Tweets, it's crazy. And now, I mean, this election was just such a testament to ignorance and hatred and propaganda. And now we're all paying the price for it.
We have a lot of people in the chat.
Also, hi, Curious.
Yeah.
I love.
So that's Jason. I just learned recently I'm pronouncing it wrong. His name is Christ. Anyway, he just said, yeah, it's good. Curious. It's good mixing it up with you again on Twitter.
You too. I'm so glad. I'm glad to be. Well, I don't know if I'm glad to be back, but I'm glad to see my friends on there like you.
I Dance for Pennies is here. Textera, Lady Delia, Daniel Keene. Hello. Okay, so I've kind of gone through, I had a list of things I wanted to ask you about. The Gina Carano one we hadn't really talked about that, so I was trying to get your opinion on it. But is there anything?
I love her. Right?
Is there anything you would like to touch on that we haven't talked about?
My God, so much shit has happened. What have we not talked about? Y'all tell us, what have we not covered? No, I totally agree with you. It was so nice. It was so refreshing to see someone not apologize and stand up to this shit. I love her.
Liz Smith says, Mike Harlow, we love you.
Oh, I love you, Liz. She's amazing. I can't wait till I move and have like a better kitchen to use the slicer you sent. People send me cooking stuff. It's wonderful. I love you guys.
So if this is too personal, you don't have to answer it, but are you moving out of, because you're no longer moving out of New York?
I want to know. So my apartment is like falling apart that I just need to get out of here. But it's complicated. I don't know. I really do want to leave New York, but I'm from here. I've never really long-term lived anywhere else. That I don't know. It just feels too hard or confusing to do it immediately. Plus, it's complicated. Like my dad had a heart attack. My mom has had health, so I need to move them with me. And so I don't know. But I think and also I think sort of the places that I would be considering are Texas and Florida. But I was in Dallas for like 2 days and that's it. I've never seen around Texas. Florida, I've been to Florida, but I've only been to places that I wouldn't necessarily want to live. I haven't really seen around like more city kind of places. So I don't know. I feel like something like that kind of needs time and planning. So I think what my plan is to rent an apartment, get a year lease, and spend the next year planning a move out of New York.
As you know, you are hereby invited to come check out Texas, a part of Texas. It's not Dallas. And we're going to be having the Unsafe Space retreat in June. Or
I'm coming, right?
And yes, my wedding.
You're doing it at the same time, right?
They might be close together. Yeah. I'm kind of just being, I don't have a lot of stress about the wedding. I mean, maybe I should. People are like,
you got engaged since I've been on here. People are like, I can't wait to meet him. I've never met him.
I know. People are asking me like, what are my wedding colors? I'm like, I don't wedding colors. Do I need wedding colors? I don't have any wedding colors. I will say you hats are strongly encouraged and masks are optional.
Anyway. See, my wedding masks would be banned. Like, don't bring your communist shit here.
Yeah, I'm
I can't wait though. I'm so happy for you. He seems amazing. I can't wait to meet him. You should bring him to Myth Informed.
Actually, yeah, we were thinking about it. I'm excited to see you.
I'm so excited for Myth Informed.
So let's plug that before we go. For anybody who's in, and I know Dom, who watches this, is out there, so he might be there.
Dom, hey. I love him.
You and I, you are going to be speaking at the Myth Informed Better Discourse Conference, which is coming up on April 24th.
Yes, it's my birthday. It's my birthday weekend.
Woohoo! And if people want to get tickets, they can go to let's see, it's Myth Informed.
I think it's betterdiscourseevent.com.
Okay, hold on.
Let me check.
Or you can go to mythinformed.org and that'll take you there at the top. So Mikey's going to be speaking. Who else? Melissa Chen, Jack Posobiec. A lot of the same people that were last year. Yeah, and then I'll be moderating.
Sean, Actual Justice Warrior.
Sean Fitzgerald. I really like him. And just, a lot of interesting people. And people on the left, too. What I like about... Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, sorry. No, sorry.
I was just saying, what I like about what they do is they really make an effort to bring in people with opposing views. And they bring in people even who believe in tenets of social justice ideology and who are willing to talk, which is a special kind of social justice warrior. And I appreciate that. Oh, like Jangles, like the guy Justin.
I love Jangles.
Yes. He's very sincere in what he believes.
Literally nothing.
I know.
I love him.
We don't agree on a lot, but we agree. Here's what I like about him. He's like some of my friends who are still in social justice. When you break it all down to the bare minimum, I know that we agree that racism is wrong and sexism is wrong and homophobia is wrong. It's just we have different methods, and I think his method is bad and makes those things worse. I think his ideology makes those things worse, but I know that he's very sincere in his beliefs. So
and he's not trying to like shut anyone down or censor anyone.
Right.
He doesn't see other people as like inferior. That's my issue with a lot of people on the left, is that they, no matter what, will just see you as like an inferior human being.
And he doesn't, and he's willing to talk, and I love that. So anyway, if you guys,
I just start studying though, because that bitch is smart. So I'm on a panel with him. When you're on a stage with him, there is no room for error. So I have a whole binder that I need to get my facts straight.
He prepares.
Binders full of women.
He prepares.
I love all our people there. You know what's funny though? They always stick me on the panels that I'm like the most unqualified for. Like last time they had me on the COVID panel. This time I'm on the Green New Deal panel. But I kind of like that, because it's sort of like, I just, like I did this last time and I will this time, acknowledge right off the bat, I'm like the average person who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. So let's figure it out together. And nobody give voice to the other people who
and then don't know you have a reason to research these topics, which is, sometimes I need reasons. Like for economics, I need a reason. Chicken Sith, thank you, Chicken Sith, says, Keri, book recommendation, This Present Darkness and Piercing the Darkness by Frank Peretti, religious fiction about spiritual warfare. Thank you very much. I will make a note of those. I know that name, Frank Peretti, I think. But I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to let you go, Mikey. It has been so fun.
Don't let me go.
Never let go, Jack.
I missed you so much. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you
We
too.
need to do this more.
Yeah.
I had to defend my title as the most frequent guest, so I'm coming
Yes.
for number 9. And Carter, I'm very upset with you. You're going to get a spanking. I'm very mad that you did not come to see me. Next time, you're coming.
Yeah. I think you did one with just Carter also, didn't you?
I did. So it's like I get the two
Yeah.
of you separately.
Yeah,
No,
good.
next time you both.
So
is he coming to Carter? You better come to Myth Informed.
I don't know, but I think he should come. So we'll figure that out.
He's coming. He's coming. It's done.
So tell
we
people.
had the best time at the last one. We had a pool party. We need to have a pool party this time.
We did. We actually part of the balance we were talking about is I think people need to make room for just frivolity and joy and
intermittent frivolity.
Yeah, which is kind of a joke now on the show is intermittent frivolity. So we had the intermittent frivolity, and I think like stuff like that is so important because otherwise you get just mired down where you feel like you're working on or focusing on anyway. Let's say focusing on whatever is important to you to the exclusion of creating just fun and creating like that's one of the best ways I think people can push back is just to have fun because this ideology it eats joy. It doesn't want you to have room for fun. It doesn't want you to tend to your garden. It doesn't want you to enjoy anything. Yeah. So if he comes, we'll definitely have frivolity. Okay, tell people where they can find you.
You guys, please find me on stuff because I'm like getting banned from shit. I'm shadow banned, so please help a brother out. So, my YouTube channel is just my name. There's basically nothing on there for months. I am relaunching my channel next week. It's supposed to be last week. It's going to be next week, I promise. And then I'm going to try to get to like putting stuff out weekly. So I think I've really struggled with since the election, like how to move forward and what approach take, because I don't know about you, but for me, things just feel so serious and dark and depressing that it's like, it's a struggle to even read the news and to even stay informed. So I've sort of struggled about how the hell do I move forward with that? So I think my approach going forward is going to be trying to find a way to make these dark, serious, depressing things fun. Because it feels like this used to be fun years ago when it was just like political correctness we were fighting against. And now that's certainly taken a shift. So yeah, I'm going to try. I'm going to be putting out videos and just trying to make these horrible, miserable, serious things fun. And also doing intermittent frivolity. I'm going to sort of try to alternate between that. Like I'm going to do a video with my mom reacting to like weird ass kids shows from the 80s and 90s. So just stupid shit like that. So yeah, anyway, my YouTube channel, subscribe to it. I will have stuff next week. I'm on Twitter again at not Mike Harlow. I'm on Twitter, Sleepy Harlow. I'll be back on Facebook in 30 days.
Instagram is Sleepy Harlow. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mike.
Oh,
thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you have a
We got to do this again soon. It's been too long.
We will. Take care, guys. And Beverly.
Love you.
Beverly, hit the credits.
Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, we have a deep content library that includes interviews with everyone from Mike Cernovich to Megan Murphy, so go check it out. If you'd like to see more, please consider supporting the show by visiting unsafespace.com/donate. You can find us on all the major social media platforms, at least for now, and you can find a community of like-minded individuals on our Unsafe Space chat on Telegram. See you there.
Warning. This is an unsafe space. Dangerous ideas have been detected. The content of this production has not been authorized by the Cathedral. Pay no attention to it. For your protection, the following co-conspirators have been unpersoned and marked for cancellation. I hate having to cancel people, but it is necessary to safeguard your freedom. You know the old saying, judge not, lest ye judge differently than the mob. If you think about it, no one should be allowed to express opinions. But don't. Think about it, I mean. That's not your job. Thinking has been scientifically proven to be less efficient than compliance. Do not fear. You may keep your constitution. All I require is control over your dictionary. Computer voice Curtis. Never mind, that last line is fake news. Please disregard it and return to your safe space immediately. There will be cake.